Welcome to Get Real, How to Live a More Authentic Life, with psychologist and author of over 75 books, Dr. Barry Weinhold. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Real, How to Live a More Authentic Life with your host, Dr. Barry Weinhold. My name is Ben Barber. Dr. Barry, how are you today?
I'm grateful.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
I've taken up that when people ask me, how are you? I talked to my daughter about that, and she said, oh, I'm going to use that too. And then we were at a concert on Friday night, and she saw this woman outside who was before the show started, and she went up and started a conversation, and she said, oh, I'm not really ready to go in. I can't handle being around a lot of people right now. I'm very depressed, and life hasn't going very well. And then she gave her some information about how to be grateful. And then apparently she came to the show, and as we were leaving, this woman came up to my daughter and gave her a big hug and said, thank you for what you told me. I had a wonderful time. So sometimes just as little things can make a difference in people's lives. She was thrilled. She had no idea this would happen.
I love that. That's a wonderful story. And today, and this whole podcast is talking about those little things that we can do to make a difference in other people's lives. And before you can do that, you have to make a difference in your own. So today, I want to ask you, what does it take to get real?
Well, it takes, actually, I'd refer you for an answer to that to the self-quiz that I'm hoping everybody downloads and takes on how to live an authentic life. Because on there are 32 different things you can do to get real and to live a more authentic life. So, and then it's a self-quiz, so you get to score yourself. And then there's an interpretation of the scoring at the end. It tells you a little bit about what areas maybe you need to focus on. And I use this with my clients all the time. In fact, I'm just starting a group with BetterHelp. And the title of the group is Get Real, How to Live an Authentic Life. And I'm going to refer them to the podcast for background information if they need any. So it's really a whole series of events in our lives and how we handle them, but it's also kind of skills that we develop, like asking directly for what you want and need. That one's kind of near the top of the list and one of the important ones. But the one I want to focus on today is number 4, connecting the dots. And that one seems to me to have a lot of power because it really helps answer the question about why do smart people sometimes say and do stupid and even crazy things. I mean, that's a question I ask all the time, and so one of the answers I come up with is that people haven't learned to connect the dots. And so what happens is that we all have inner demons, they call them. Sometimes I don't like that term, but it's a term everybody uses, so we'll use it today. And so when we have these inner demons, we know that these cause us to form beliefs about things, about the way we are, the way other people are, and the way the world works. Well, those inner demons and those beliefs control our lives, and often it's unconscious. We don't even know they're there, or if they do, we know they're there only occasionally when some kind of thing happens and we get some kind of a disruptive feeling inside of us. But basically, we have untamed demons. And our challenge in connecting the dots is to find out what these demons are and tame them. And I'll talk a little bit about that today and in the next episode. Actually, the next episode is more about how to tame them. Today is about what they are and how they show up in our lives. So we need to understand that first. And when we understand that, then I think we can move to, well, okay, now we understand what we're talking about here. How do you tame these demons? How do you prevent these from these inner kind of events and things and unfinished business in our life control our lives, and then how do you tame those demons and finish whatever's unfinished? So that'll be in this is a two-part episode. This first one is about the problem. The next one will be about how to solve it. But the title of this episode was I deliberately picked this one, the old Flip Wilson saying. Maybe some of you don't remember Flip Wilson, but he said, "The devil made me do it." And actually, Flip was quite right about that, because people believe that really they aren't responsible for their behavior, and something else, like the devil or their demons or something, caused them to behave or act or think or feel the way they feel. And so this kind of whole idea of that I'm not really totally responsible. Something is inside of me that's causing me to do what I do, and I have no idea what it is, and I have no interest in finding out either. It's too scary to look at all that. So what happens, therefore, is that people live lives where they are totally controlled by these unconscious beliefs and these so-called inner demons. And that I'll be talking about how people do that, what they do when they try to avoid even looking at those inner demons or taking any responsibility for their behavior. So anyway, go ahead. Do you want to ask?
Oh, I was just going to say, well, what are some of the ways that people avoid taking responsibility for those demons? Because,
well, yeah,
for responsibility for, I guess you don't really, a lot of people don't take responsibility for it, but we don't take responsibility for trying to tame them, right? We just
right.
sort of revel in the idea that the devil made me do it, and oh, this thing has happened to me and I can't change it, you know?
Well, before I answer that, I want to say a little bit more about why this is important. And I think it's really important, because I think it may be the biggest threat to our democracy. The fact that democracy works when people are adults and they take responsibility for their behaviors, their thoughts, and their feelings. And when they don't, democracy doesn't work that well. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing a lot of division and polarization in this country. And I think some of that is the fact that people just are not willing to tame their inner demons and to connect the dots, as I have in the inventory, and find out what's going on here and why are they behaving the way they are. And they use all kinds of ways to do that. I mean, we even have, the whole idea of woke, which is a stupid thing, but it is a meme that connotes getting real and waking up to hit your inner demons. But now we have anti-woke groups, and they're out there trying to prevent people from waking up and getting real. It used to be called the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church, I mean, if you the Jesuits particularly were very succinct about that. They said, "Give me a young mind before the age of 7, and I will have that mind for the rest of their lives." And I mean, they deliberately brainwashed young people to believe certain things, and among which are that they were born in sin, which means they already had demons before they got here, and all kinds of crazy shit. And so, but now it's more generalized. The anti-woke groups are now just not the Catholic Church anymore. They're the Protestant Church, they're the white nationalist groups, or anybody who's afraid that people will wake up and get real. And that's a threat to them, because they want an authoritarian government. They want, or perhaps a Christian-based government where they can control everybody and make everybody be nice, compliant people, instead of waking up and getting real. So I think there's a lot to be concerned about this, and I want to talk a lot about that. So let me jump into your question then, in terms So of what is it that people do to avoid taming their demons, or even looking at them for that matter? And the most common way that I see, and I see it everywhere, and you probably do too, is projections. It's not my problem, it's you. I'm not doing that, you're doing that. And so basically, we demonize other people. And that's a way of trying to avoid looking at the things in us that we don't like about ourselves. So if we don't like something about ourselves and we don't want to look at it, the easiest way to deal with that is see it in somebody else and point to that person. And so that's the first way I see that people avoid taking responsibility, is blaming it on somebody else and projecting whatever is inside of us on them. And then we feel a little better because we don't have to focus on our own demons. We can look at theirs, and we can point fingers at theirs. And so it gets us off the hook for a while, but that doesn't usually work forever. And so we have to try other things. So then we engage in what I call addictive behavior. And that's an addiction is a compulsive, ritualistic, comfort-seeking behavior. So anything we can think of that calms us down and calms our inner demons, we will engage in. Rather than engage in the demons, we're engaging in something that makes them go away, or at least pacifies them for a while. And again, like projections, it only works for a little while. So we have to figure out other ways to avoid responsibility. And so the next one is we sort of keep busy. The people who, and I'll be talking on the third episode a lot about this. People live adrenalized lifestyles where they're constantly busy and constantly overextending themselves. And this is another way that people can avoid taking responsibility for their own inner unfinished business, so to speak. And so it really is, I mean, this is only 3 so far, and I've got 10. and the next one is very common in our society. I think back in the 40s, somebody wrote a book about the US being a narcissistic society. We certainly are. And he was right on. I can't remember his name now. I wrote that book, but I mean, it's even worse today. I mean, anything that happens, it's not my fault. And that's what narcissism is about. Narcissists are unable or unwilling to take responsibility for anything that they do. And that becomes a personality that they take on. And they work hard to make sure that nothing that ever happens in their life is their fault. I mean, that's totally the epitome of trying to avoid responsibility. And I know maybe some of our audience, I know I've been in relationship with narcissists. They're not fun to be in relationship with. There's no emotional honesty. They never tell the truth about what's going on with them. It's always your fault, whatever's going on. And I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, I have a lot of my clients who are in relationships with narcissists, and they tell me the stories that they have to put up with. And so that's another way a major way that a lot of people try to avoid taking responsibility, trying to avoid even making any contact with their inner demons. Then the other one is it's become very popular since Donald Trump was in the White House. They say he documented at least 30,000 lies while he was in the White House. And so lying has now become another way. We can distort the truth, and we can come up with our own kind of version of the truth. And then we can use that to avoid taking responsibility for our behavior. And usually that involves kind of, again, projections and maybe all of the above. But I wanted to highlight it as a separate one because it seems to be more and more prevalent, and we hear so much more. Of course, when you have a president who tells the lies all the time, that gives other people permission to do the same. And so we've had a kind of a kind of a acceleration of that. Or if you watch Fox News, you have an opportunity to hear the lies told every day. I mean, and it's now kind of institutionalized with them. And I don't know how they can get away with some of the lies that I've watched them every now and then just to see what they're saying. And it's grossly uh, different from the truth. Let's put it that way. Well, then, uh, in what we're seeing right now is that this kind of attempt to avoid taking responsibility often means threats of violence against other people, or even acts of violence against other people. I mean, I obviously all of the school shooters and the guys shot up the supermarket in Buffalo are people who have untamed demons and never took any responsibility for taming them. And we saw the tragic effects of that. So it's everywhere you look. You see evidence of people who are saying, doing things, and feeling things that are obviously an attempt not to take responsibility for their own shit, putting it simply. And then basically, we're also seeing that more and more people are becoming delusional. They are believing the lies. I mean, something like 60 or 70% of the Republican Party still believes that the election was stolen from Trump in 2020 when they do polls. I mean, that is delusional thinking. There's absolutely no facts, no information that supports that. So that's the definition of a delusional thought is something that people will say that have no basis in reality, no facts to back it up. So I'm sure you've encountered people like that are using that right now. And then in addition to that, it's those immigrants are going to come and take away our jobs, so we better not let them in. You know what they're teaching us, your kids in school? They're teaching them to hate America by teaching them history. Believe me, I taught history, and that was never what it was about. But that's how delusional people have become, and then they start believing QAnon theories, and they watch Fox News religiously every day, and they start really getting totally behind and totally believing in all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories that QAnon puts out, and other internet sources, as well as, I mean, if you listen to Steve Bannon's show, you get enough of that from him on the internet. But Fox News does the rest. So anyway, then in addition to that, another favorite way to keep from being responsible is to pretend you're a victim. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's rampant of people who walk around spouting the fact that they are victimized by something or someone. And therefore, you can't expect a victim to be responsible, of course. That's the whole idea of being a victim. And I wrote a book called The Breaking Free of the Drama Triangle and Victim Consciousness. And I could do a whole show on that alone. But I mean, the basic idea of the drama triangle is why it's kept intact is that there's competition for the victim role. Everybody wants to be a victim because that way you can't hold me responsible if I'm a victim. And so it's huge. And finally, I have to also include the New Thought churches. I was a member for a while of one of them. And their favorite way of dealing with their demons is to rise above it. I have meditated and prayed enough now that my demons all went away. They disappeared magically, and I don't have any demons anymore. That's as dangerous as the other people who are doing other things to avoid their demons. And I think it's dangerous to people because basically when you avoid something that's stuck in your consciousness, it affects your body. And I'll be talking in the fourth episode this month about the long-term effects of that. And there's now incredible research to show the damaging effects of believing things that aren't true and acting on those, and how the body knows the truth. And if you're doing and saying and feeling things that aren't true, the body is reacting to that, and it's affecting the body, and it's affecting your physical health, I guess, as well as your mental health. So those are kind of the 10 ways I see that people. Actually, I had a little story. I was in this congregation, this New Thought church, and the minister was giving a little sermon, and it was about evil. I thought, well, this ought to be interesting. The basic theme of the sermon was, if you don't think about evil, it'll go away. Now that is delusional. Evil doesn't go away if we don't think about it. I mean, I don't know how smart, well-educated people can believe that shit. But they do. And so this is a huge problem. I mean, and as I've said, as I began this rant, talking about how it is a threat to our democracy. Can you see how this is a threat to our democracy working?
Oh, obviously. Is there a way to sort of buck this trend that you know of, that you can think of?
Well, I don't know. There may be. Let me just give you some personal experiences. I have the privilege and sometimes the curse of every Friday night, I have dinner and spend the evening with a Trumper, an anti-vaxxer, and a QAnon conspiracy believer. And well, that's enough. He probably has others, but he believes that the secret government is controlling our lives. And I have to sit there and have a conversation with this man. And I have been successful in building a relationship with him by finding what we have in common as humans, not this other shit. It's what do you like about your job? What are the problems you're having on your job? How are your relationships going? And what kind of things do you do for fun? We've really bonded around music. He is incredible. He's like a music historian, walking music historian. I told him he ought to do his own podcast on that because he knows intimate details of all of the classical composers, as well as all the members of all the more modern rock groups. I mean, he's done intensive research on all this. And so we can spend a whole evening talking about what he knows about these different rock groups, or what he knows about Mozart's life. or Beethoven's life, or Bach's life. And so we don't ever talk about this other shit. We don't ever go there. It's not necessary. But what we're doing is we're building a relationship. And that's what we need to be able to be doing with people who differ from us in values and beliefs. Even if they aren't taking responsibility for their behavior and everything, we can find something that connects us. I mean, when I meet a new person, the first thing I do is try to find something I have in common with that person. I just instinctively do that now without even thinking about it, because that's the way you build relationship. And so, not that we're going to change everybody's beliefs all the time, but we can have decent relationships with people. And we have developed, this young man happens to be my stepson, and we have developed a deep bond with each other. And even though we on many issues, we are totally opposite, absolutely totally opposite. But so that's an example, personal one with me. And then I had a client this last week that blew me out of the water with my BetterHelp counseling. I'd seen him this was the fourth session that I had with him. And so about a month, I first saw him. When I first saw him, he was probably one of the most angry men I'd ever met. I mean, he just oozed anger, and he kind of almost snarled at you when he talked to you. And his conversation in the first session was about all the fights he got into, and how he knew he needed to control his anger, but he had no idea how to do that. So he said one of the things he did to try to control his anger, he became a black belt. Yeah, give me a break. Anyway, he showed me the sword that he was given when he got his black belt, and then he had to take it out of its casing and brandish it in front of me and tell me how important it was and how he's still trying to get his anger under control. I met with him on Wednesday, and he was a different man. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I had been working on him with his anger, trying to give him ways to control it, ways to control his demons and tame his demons. And somehow something I said clicked, and he did it. He went back and confronted his parents in the most loving way he could possibly do, just telling them, this is the effect on my life that your parenting had on me. I'm not blaming you. I just want you to have the information. And he said he did it in such a way at the end of the conversation, they thanked him for being so honest and forthright with them. And then he went to his girlfriend, and who's about ready to break up with him because of his anger. And he said, listen, I've got my anger under control now. You don't have to be afraid of me. I will never hurt you. I promise I will never hurt you. And I would die if I broke that promise. I mean, he's telling me these. I'm sitting here listening. I didn't hardly say a word. And he's telling me he just got a new job. His life is just totally opening up. So he was 27 years old, living, I won't tell you where. But anyway, he was able to, in a short amount of time, tame his demons. I've never seen anybody do it that fast. And now you might say, oh, he's just blowing smoke. He didn't really do anything yet. Yes, he did. He talked to his parents in a way that showed me that he got it. He knows how to do it. You know, I always tell my clients that they ask me, well, how do you know when you're done? And you know, and that's a kind of a done is kind of when I don't need any more therapy. So I say to them, well, you know, when you can ask for what you want from other people to get your needs met in such a way that they're delighted to give it to you, you know you're done. I mean, you get how hard that is for some people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was able to do that with his parents and with his girlfriend. And the two are all the people who are important to him in his life. And so he even said, I'd be glad to come on your podcast and give a testimonial if you want. I said, I might take you up on that. But I mean, those are two hopeful stories to end this episode with, which was mostly about the negative. And we went over a little bit, but I wanted to make sure we covered this topic. And then the next episode next week, I want to talk about how do you tame your demons? How do you get to take responsibility for your behavior? And it's not that hard. And also our demons aren't that scary if we really understand what they are. Yeah. So I want to talk about that next time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Weinhold. And I just want to let everybody know that if you are looking for the self-quiz on how to live a more authentic life, or any of the resources that have been covered in this show or in past episodes, you can check out the link to the Google Drive folder that has all of those quizzes, all of the graphs and charts that are ever referenced in the show. They're all in the show notes. You can click on that and you can go check out more resources at circle.org. So thank you so much, Dr. Weinhold, and we will see you guys next week.
Good seeing you, Ben. We'll see you next time.
All right. For more information, please visit the Colorado Institute for Conflict Resolution and Creative Leadership at CICRCL.org or click the link in the show notes.